Hello.
Hello, is anyone out there?
We're back.
We're here. Oh, are we though? That's the question.
True. It's all figment of your imagination.
Exactly. It's all figments of your imagination. Very cool. So today we're following on from what we were talking about yesterday, which was let's talk about what the infinite is. And then we were just having a chat before, and it's like that's all really quite impossible because the infinite is almost difficult, like impossible to even talk about. So, so I said to Mandy, okay, maybe we just chat about what the infinite actually isn't, and then we might get to some concepts, I guess, about what the infinite actually is.
Yes. Yep. So because it's formless, it's very hard to get your head around what we think we were touching on yesterday. It's that it's unknowable, really, because from the mind, that's all finite. So it's kind of trying to come at it from a finite understanding of something is kind of, it doesn't do it justice. But I think everyone gets what we're trying to point at, the truth of what it's about.
Yeah, that's right. As soon as you put labels or words or descriptions or concepts to something that is everything and is infinite, then yeah, that's right. It becomes limited again. Yes. So all we can do is approximate what it's like, I suppose, and I guess present just ideas and how it might be showing up in your world and how it shows up in ours, and just sort of then you get a sense of what it's like and a sense of the feeling of the infinite. And you're already feeling it anyway. It's just becoming aware of those feelings that you're already feeling. So you're already infinite. We don't actually have to teach it, like, sort of teach you or do anything along the lines of becoming infinite. This is not about becoming infinite at all. This is actually, you already are that. It's about becoming aware that you're that, and then how do you use that in your everyday life? And I guess that's really what we're talking about here.
Yes, so having that experience of yourself as that in the moment. That's where you can't be taught that. You have to come to that for yourself.
Yeah, that's right. And again, I guess I revisit from the other day we talked about this concept of descending as opposed to ascending, and a lot of spiritual teachings and consciousness teachings over the years I feel have been teaching about you becoming more like your infinite self, and rising up to where you've come from and all that sort of stuff. And as soon as I had the concept of no, actually it's the exact opposite of that, and Jennifer Hoff talked about that, and it was like, oh my God, light bulb moment, holy crap, like yes, that feels so true of this whole descending thing, is that you're bringing your infinite self into the limited self. And that's why you feel challenges at times, why you feel limited, why you feel like you shouldn't be here, why you feel restricted in so many ways, because it's not your natural self. You feel that. So is it any more than just a game here then? How can we bring our infinite self here and play a game? And games feel, it's like being kids and having amazing imaginations of, little friends and little cities and all this sort of stuff. It's sort of like bringing that aspect into our adult selves as well. And it's like, okay, if they can play a game like you played a game when you were a kid, you played hundreds of games when you were a kid, why can't you do that right now? Why has it changed? And is this still a game? Are we just playing a game on a bigger scale now as adults? And have to bring those concepts into this reality.
Yeah. I think one of the concepts that I think we probably got introduced to by a mentor at the time, Robert Scheinfeld, which was kind of complete 180 to everything that we had heard at the time. But for some reason, for Nat and I, it really resonated. A lot of people in the room really struggled with this particular course. A lot of us had come from Dr. John Demartini's work, which was very head-based, very analytical, gets definitely to the same point of knowing that we're infinite and we're all love and everything like that, but just how it gets there was very head-based, very science-based, whereas this was coming at it from like complete 180 with this concept of like, well, what if it is all a game? So if you're an infinite being, which is kind of hard to obviously imagine when, from this little brain of ours, but it's like, if you're an infinite being and everything was possible, everything was open to you, formless, anything could be put into the moment to create that you could possibly ever imagine, what would an infinite being do that would be fun for it? Like, could it create a game for itself to pretend it was limited because it didn't know itself as a limited being? So that might actually be a fun concept to do. And so maybe that's what the human world is all about. It is actually just a game, an experiment, or like, let's see how limited I can make myself be, and see if I can break through from this, like almost like a video game. Like, okay, how much limitation can I put on myself, and how many lives can I have, and that type of a concept.
What if you get more power?
Yeah, that's something, and reclaiming power from the illusions that you set up for yourself. And I know we started down this journey of exploring that. It's just like, wow, like this actually just feels like it's got a lot of truth to it in some ways.
No, we couldn't conceive it, but it was like, I can't deny, and this is a 4-day course. Yeah. Every time we go to lunch, be like, I didn't really get that, but yeah, not deny that feels true. Like, something about this.
So many movies that are popping into our world these days that really point to the same things. So movies like The Matrix, like The Truman Show. So if anyone's seen something like The Matrix, where the whole concept behind that is that the main character Neo wakes up, and I think he wakes up from a dream or something's on his computer, and he kind of he doesn't know if it's a dream or not. This is the whole movie, is like, is he actually imagining this? Is this real? Is this not real? Like, and then he decides to go on this journey to find out what's actually real. And he gets shown, I guess, behind the curtain of how none of it actually exists. It's all like a program that's been, implanted into your brain, and then it appears in what you think is reality, and then you interact with that so-called reality. So it sort of challenges that whole thing around, well, is this actually real? Is it not real? Like, and you've got other movies like Inception and all different things that are coming into play right now. Whereas if you kind of really look at the deeper level of what they're kind of pointing at, it is all around this. Is all of this just made up at the end of the day? Like, and if that's the case, then couldn't you just play with it all? Like, what actually is a limitation then, if it's a self-imposed concept that the human finite world, you've created? Then you can uncreate that too. You can take the power back out of it, and you can play with it rather than it be limited by it. So,
yeah, I like the concept of experiment, because I really feel that has that sense of play and creativity and childlike wonderment type thing. And we were talking just before about how I react when I put something on my to-do list. I've got to build a funnel, or I've got to do this, I've got to put this marketing out for our products, or I've got to create something. All of a sudden it's a task, and I was like, I'm feeling the weight of it. I'm feeling like, okay, I've got to do this. All right, I can force myself to do it. And that's when you have to find like outside motivation. So I need the money, or we could sell this. If we sell 50 of those, then this will create this amount of money. So all the scheming starts going on, all the brain stuff starts going on about, okay, I can see how that could work with that. And then that will enable us to actually go and approach that person because we've got a big enough list. And so all this stuff goes on. And then I guess I've become more aware of my reaction to having a to-do list and the things I have to do, and how heavy that's actually felt, as opposed to times where I've gone, I think I'll start this now. Like, I think I'll just get on with that sales page. I feel a bit inspired to do that right now. So I'll just do that. Like, I don't really know. I won't finish it. This is like my own brain tricking. I won't finish it. Like, the aim is not to finish it right now, but I'll just make a start on it type thing, and I'll just see what comes through. And so I'll start, and then I actually finish it as well. But it's sort of quite funny because the pressure's not on. It's just like I'm almost experimenting with it. I don't need to be doing it in that moment. It's almost, as I was saying to Mandy, is like this almost brain tricking that I've done. Whereas, like, I don't need to do this right now. Like, I really should be doing this next week. But I can get ahead a little bit right now, like if I just get started on it type thing. And so it's almost like it doesn't need to be done. Like, that's how I'm tricking myself, that it doesn't need to be done. Yeah. So,
that's a bit like that feeling of, for those of us out there that have this real freedom kind of streak in us, or a rebel streak, which a lot of people on awakening journey kind of feel like, because you feel like we've had so much limitation in your life and you want to break free from it. So I said to that kind of feels of almost like well, if I don't have to do it, then that feels like a freedom. Whereas sometimes when it's on a to-do list, you kind of feel like even if you're the one that wrote that thing on the list, you're really inspired to do it, it feels like I'm telling myself what to do, and that feels like I don't get to choose. Like it's that kind of a sense of it's still a limitation. It's just kind of a
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's the key point, man. Like the choice. It's like I don't have to be doing this right now, but I'm actually choosing to because I feel inspired to do it right now.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the difference between that outside motivation and inspiration. So inspiration is coming through, and it's like, oh, I feel to do this right now. Like I started on a sales page last night, and I was like, oh, I don't have to be doing this right now. The tennis is on, but it just felt like such a comfortable space to be in. And I was just like, oh no, I'll just make a start on it. So I just followed my creativity on that sales page type thing. I grabbed some stuff from an old sales pages. I brought that in. I grabbed some other stuff, and it was just like slowly that page was constructing itself by me just following completely in the flow about what that would look like. And I was like, oh, I've almost finished the sales page. It's really weird, like how to do that. And I before that, I was so resistant to I hate doing sales pages. I was really resistant to it. But because I took the pressure off and I didn't have to do it, it just flowed, and I didn't have to finish it. That was the key thing, is I didn't have to, in my mind, I didn't have to finish it.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I'll just be whatever it wants.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's that just being in that creative space. And we were talking before about people that have very structured days. I get up at 6:30 and I do my yoga and I do my meditation. And I do this, and that takes 3 hours to do all the things that I need to do. I make my smoothie and all that sort of stuff. And we're both the same, Mandy and I. It just doesn't work for us. Like I've tried it. I've done it for like a week or two, and then I just go back to how I normally operate, which is just completely in the flow. I get up when I wake up, or obviously we're house sitting, so we've got dogs and cats and all different routines all the time, every time we move countries as well. And so I've got to cater for that aspect. But it's just sort of like I get up and just go with what I feel to do, sort of thing. Like the only thing really we're structured right now is to actually catch up together and do a live every day. And I've said 7 o'clock in the morning for me. We haven't always hit that mark. In fact, it's now 9:45. But it's just having those, to me, it was just like those loose plans of like, okay, let's aim for this. And we'll just go with the flow type thing. Like half the time we didn't even know what we're going to talk about each day. So it's until we talk about it just before we go live. It's like, what do you feel like talking about? So there's definitely no structure to anything.
Yeah.
So, and that brings up stuff for people as well. And there's no structure at all. It's like, if you're operating from a space of motivation all the time, then having no structure is actually very difficult, because you'll find that there is no motivation then. Like you're not trying to work towards a goal or an intention or a certain outcome type thing.
Yes.
Suddenly you're in the flow, and it could be anything. You're operating in that infinite space. It could take you anywhere during that day. Like you might be working on a totally different project by the end of the day. Who knows? Like,
yes.
So it takes a lot more trust, but it also, I feel, takes a lot more inspiration, that empty space of creativity and inspiration to come through of like, in this moment, I feel like doing this now.
Yes. Yeah. And I think a concept that one of my mentors, Jennifer Hoff, talks about a lot is this idea of doing what's presenting. And it's an extremely simple concept, but it's probably the concept that everyone struggles with the most. Like myself included, like it's kind of like it's just so, the mind just wants to overcomplicate it so much. Like, and it's the idea is this, what's presenting right now in this moment to do, like what is coming through you to do right now. But then you kind of want to judge it. It's like, okay, well, is this the thing that's presenting? Like, or is it that? Like, and you start to question, like, even just these little motivational things, but it's just like, okay, if something will make itself really obvious right now that what has to be done. And that could be like, I've got to go and wash the dishes. Like, it could be just this feeling that comes through you, like, I've got to go and wash the dishes. And it's not coming from a sense of, oh my God, I've got to wash the dishes and then I've got to do this. And that's your ego mind kind of kicking in and taking over. This true thing of doing what's presenting is kind of talking about this infiniteness. When I think about it now, putting it into that language, it's like it is this thing that moves through you to do or to interact with. So it could come from outside of you too. It could be like somebody engages you in a conversation. So instead of you kind of your normal thing might be to just, someone says, oh, how are you? Oh, I'm fine. And kind of just keep going on. You don't really, but if you were really to engage that person, maybe that person was actually saying it not from this, oh, I'm just asking you because I have to, but they actually were really engaging and they smiled at you or they made a joke or something. That is an invitation then to kind of go, okay, well, this is presenting right now, to maybe have an interaction with this person. You never know where those things are going to go. Sometimes you get introduced to somebody that you never knew you were going to get introduced, and it ends up being a contact for something down the track, or it could be just a really inspiring conversation. But oftentimes something comes out of those interactions. I think just these random people that you meet, or a connection that you have with somebody, or things like that just happen. And that is that whole doing what presents and playing with that feeling that's coming through you to do something in the moment. And that could be like what Nat said, to do a sales page. Like, it doesn't really matter what it is. It's that moving through on that feeling that is coming through you right now to do without questioning it. Like, it's just, that's what it is. But it's like the mind just wants to take over it. And so that's where it sort of feels like it gets hard, because we feel like, well, it should look like this, and I should have a goal for that, but I wrote this on my to-do list to do.
I'm supposed to do this today, but I don't feel like doing that.
So it's sort of, it is a tricky line, because then the ego can take that and also make it say, well, I'm just doing what's presenting. Like, so it's kind of like you have to kind of be very aware of whether it is still that true feeling for yourself, or it's the ego kind of taking over that even as well, because it gets very sneaky at times with how it can sneak into your day to kind of take over. But so that, such a simple concept of we are infinite. It's just like, it is at the core of it. It's like the core of all religious teachings, the core of all these sort of spiritual teachings that you hear. It is essentially all the same. Everyone is saying the same thing. But we just overcomplicate it so much. I think it has to be something harder than that, or and so you do have to have that direct experience of it to know it. You can't be taught it. You can't be shown it. You can be pointed in the right direction of it. Somebody could help, point to the truth, but you start putting words and feelings around it, and it automatically is not the truth anymore, because it's just something that cannot be named, cannot be, there's no limitation on it. So,
and I think that's what makes it scary, is there is no limitation on it. So the ego automatically goes, oh shit, that could be this. I don't want that.
Yes.
And this is possible. Then failure is possible, and then we might break up, and then I might lose all my money, and then all this stuff might happen. It's like, all of that becomes possible. It's like, freak out. So it's sort of, that's where it does become difficult, because the mind automatically kicks in. And we were talking as well, is like, when you do start to dive into this stuff and you open up the infinite possibilities, it can bring up a whole bunch of stuff that's been sitting underneath the surface for a long time that needs to be expressed or released. Your old belief systems and your old thought patterns and your old routines, your old ways of doing stuff, because they get to a point where they don't work anymore. So, what used to work and the old things that you used to do are not working anymore. You're not getting the results that you want. In fact, if anything, it's going the opposite. Yeah. It's like, oh, okay, now I've got to change everything. Like, that's really terrifying to the ego and to the human self, that something might be lost. The scary thing about the ego is it doesn't want to lose anything. So when you talk about change, or you talk about a possibility of letting something go, or letting a person go from your life, or a job, or an investment, or something like that, suddenly that's terrifying. Yes. And it feels genuine. It feels really genuinely, really terrifying. And so it can take a lot to then move past that feeling, be with that feeling enough to let it go and see the truth of that feeling. And we'll talk more about this in our coming sessions about how to do all this process.
Yes.
To then move to the truth, which is, okay, that goes, something else will come in its place. Like, that goes, it's all just changing form the whole time. Like, there's nothing ever lost or destroyed. It just changes form. So energy is just moving all the time. So of course it's going to keep changing. Like, that has to keep changing.
Yeah. When you think about too that space of like the infiniteness is everything and nothing at once. It is the nothingness. It's that void that we feel with. It feels like an empty void within us. Like, everyone has had that feeling of kind of just this, people get into this space, say when they're in a really deep meditation or something like that, where you feel like you're one with everything. There is no form, there's no labels, there's no
Nothing to change.
There is nothing to change. Everything is perfectly fine as it is. Like, it's just this knowingness that it just is. Like, it's just, there is that knowingness. And so when you come back then into sort of your finite world, like, and this is where the ego can only exist in the finite world, it gets its fuel from that finite world. So it has to create story to exist. And it's actually scared of the void. That's the whole thing that we're talking about. It's trying to fill that empty void, the nothingness, because it perceives it as like, and that's it, like, it's scary. Like, there's nothing there. Like, it could be anything. It could be, And so to the ego,
well, it's out of control, isn't it? At that point, like, it can't control anything, and that is a big part of the ego. It wants to control everything. And you'll notice that in your own life, that there's this certain things that mean a lot to you that you start to control, like your relationship or your job, or and trying to manipulate. And if you're really honest with yourself, trying to manipulate and make it the way you want it to be, and that's just pure ego.
Yes,
feeling out of control.
Yeah. So the ego is always after. Like, we can touch on this in another, video, because this could go. We could talk about this topic for a long time. But the ego is always looking for. It creates the stories because that's its fuel. Like, that's how it lives. So it's always looking for acceptance, appreciation, recognition, security, and there's another one. There's another one in there, and I'm just gone blank on what it is. But we can touch on this next time. But it's always looking. When you think about it, like, you get yourself into a situation, and you might feel moved to go and do something. And then you notice the other part of you that wants to be appreciated for that thing that you've just gone and done. Like, you want somebody to acknowledge that.
Done that out of the goodness of your heart, but then there's a part of you goes, oh, but I would really like somebody to acknowledge me for that, though.
Yeah. Acknowledgement was the other one that I didn't say. So it's that. Yeah, you're looking for that acceptance to be part of a group, acknowledgement for what you've done, recognition for what you've done as well, or security, like feeling safe in your world. So you do things to make yourself feel safe, and that could be chasing money, it could be having a certain job or a certain status, that type of thing. So it's kind of, the ego is, that's how it feels, like it feels love, whereas the infiniteness doesn't need anything to feel love. It just is love, whereas the ego is always looking for love on the external. So that's the difference. That's when you kind of know when you're in ego versus that infinite, knowing yourself as an infinite state. And as we said, this is a very deep topic, so not doing this.
Talk about it more tomorrow. Yeah, let's go through those different elements of the ego then, and what it's looking for, and identify some of the places that it might be showing up in our worlds and in our reality, and talk more about that, like that need for love. That's all it's trying to do at the end of the day, but it's looking for it all in the wrong places. And that is a really cool topic to be talking about. So I think let's address that tomorrow, because it definitely is a bigger topic to talk about. It's a very cool topic to talk about. But I think it gives you lots of light bulb moments when some of this stuff that's playing out. It's like, oh shit, I am doing that. God.
You realise how much your life is driven by the ego and the agendas of the ego, and it's not something to beat yourself up about, but it's just like, oh my God, like, wow, okay, like it's almost like that.
Take a step back and your truth and living, what you love and all that sort of stuff, and it's you really nothing what's possible. Yeah,
but the whole point about all of that awareness is to take your power back from it and know yourself as the infinite. So it's actually quite empowering to sort of see what's at play, and then you can actually step back from that and know yourself as the infinite, and actually reverse that whole process and coming from that space rather than it coming from finite out to the infinite. It's the other way around. The infinite, the infiniteness moving through this finite body that we're here in this world to express through. So
cool stuff. Woo. Okay, I'm excited for tomorrow now.
Longer and longer.
Right. Hey,
I said they're getting longer and longer, our lives.
Now we're up to 24 minutes. We're going to do 10. Okay, there you go.
Although we do want to start doing some podcasts where we can actually really dive deep into some of these topics too, so that, maybe we introduce a little bit of a concept here in the Facebook Live, and then we actually get to do a full-on kind of conversation about it, podcast, so it's, so we're just exploring different mediums right now too, and how we can continue all these different types of juicy conversations. So,
Jodie's always been listening in the background, so she said,
Okay.
so happy to reframe my lack of desire for to-do lists. She's one person that hates to-do lists. And for a long time it drove me crazy, but I think I'm moving more into the space of, stop it. Yeah, I don't want to-do lists. That's boring.
And if it works for you, that's totally fine too. It's just knowing yourself, I think, too, and knowing
what works for you.
Yeah, and also holding it loosely, I think, as well. It's like you might have a sense of what you want to accomplish because it feels true, you know, to do. That's the other thing, is checking if it actually is true to do the things that are on your to-do list, because probably 99% of them are not actually true for yourself and what you want to be doing. So there's nothing wrong with having that list, but it's holding it loosely too and doing what actually presents in the moment to do, where the inspiration takes you, because it often takes you into a place that you would never have gone if you held it in the limitation that you had on it. So
yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Oh, exciting stuff. Okay.
All right.
There, and we'll see you
Tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye. Live infinitely.